Okay, folks. Would all chairmen please come to the front of the line? And if you're on Rules Committee, you do not have to get on the wall. You can present your bill from your desk. All chairmen to the front. And then once they get there, there's no pecking order. It's just whoever's there. Okay, I'm going to ask Chairman Jaspers if he'll open us with prayer.
Let's all bow our heads, please. Heavenly Father, thank you for giving us another day, another opportunity to do your work and live our lives according to your word. Heavenly Father, please look after some of us, some of our friends. Look after Congressman Tom Graves' son, John, in Tennessee in an accident this weekend. And please look after all of us. Give us wisdom and spirit of cooperation and love for you. We do this in your name. Amen.
Okay, just so everybody will remember, if your bill does not make it to the floor, it's nothing personal. Yeah, Mr. Powell, if your bill don't make it to the floor, it's nothing personal. Just creosote and smoke. Okay. All right. Chairman Hogan, go ahead, sir. Give us your bill number and where it's located on the blue sheet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Rules Committee. This is substitute House Bill 833 LC 450474S. And this bill is actually Chairman Stevens' bill. It's a watercraft so to prohibit overnight anchoring in an anchorage restricted area, to provide for definitions, to establish anchorage restriction areas, and to establish short-term and long-term anchoring, and to prohibit unlawful acts pertaining to liveaboard vessels within estuary areas, and that's what the bill does.
Okay, Chairman Smith, you have a comment?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to make the observation. This has been an issue before our General Assembly for about 3 years, and several people got together to come up with a great compromise. It's important to our coastal part of the states, and have I said everything that Chairman Stevens asked me to say? I'm just checking.
Chairman Stevens, welcome back. You were in everybody's prayers. Thank you, sir.
I got one more.
Okay, go ahead.
Substitute House Bill 10.
Tell us the number and the page it's on.
The number is House Bill 1045 and LC 4603-11S.
It's on page 3.
Oh, I'm sorry, page. It's on page 3. 1045, about halfway down. This is a bill that enables county commissioners to take the taxes on insurance premiums and use it for flood reduction. And it's not any increase in taxes. It's a tax has already been collected by the county commissioners.
Chairman Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, I was trying to understand what you were saying. Did you say that this is a change in how we can use the insurance premium tax? I missed.
It adds to a fifth item that county commissioners can use for flood reduction. Currently, they can use it for roadways, sidewalks, and a couple other things, and this just adds flood reduction to what they can use this money for. And they can also use it to apply for grants with FEMA.
But is this the insurance premium tax that we're reassigned the ability to use?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, sir. Chairman Hitchens.
Thank you.
Remember, all chairmen come up to the front.
Okay, this is House Bill 1021. It's on page 3, the 9th bill down. This is a Joshua's Law bill, which was passed in 2005, it went into effect 2007, and next year the Senate dropped What it did was provide 5% of traffic fine money to provide for professional drivers' education. The subsequent year, the Senate introduced a bill and they dropped it down to 1.5%. This is one of the most sought-after grants in the state of Georgia today. And they run out of money every month, and it's prioritized. Those who are children of law enforcement officers and military personnel killed in the line of duty get first priority. Those who have 125% of school lunch money get second priority, and third priority goes to everybody else that it never gets to third priority. So this is asking it to go from 1.5% to 3%, which would double the number of people eligible in the state.
Okay, I see no questions. Thank you, sir. Chairman Dickey. That's all. How's the peaches looking?
They're looking real good, trying to
Good.
bloom. I hope you had a nice birthday yesterday, Mr. Chairman.
Well, no, go ahead.
House Bill 1026, the middle of page 3, is a very slight adjustment in the numbers of REACH scholars that our state is allowing. It's a great program. We're expanding it, but just due to some budget constraints, we're adjusting the numbers a little bit more in line with our funding. So that's all this bill does.
Okay, no questions. Thank you, sir. Chairman McCall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wasn't aiming on bothering y'all this year, but I got drafted House Bill 857, 6-1 down on the second page. It is very important to Chairman Powell and myself. Prevents burning cross ties. And then also...
What number was that?
857.
Okay. All right.
And then House Bill 1057 is not mine, but it's Trey Rhodes, and he and I are tired of getting irate phone calls, and this will solve some of those problems. I'd appreciate you thinking about it.
1057, where is that?
I don't even know if 1057 is on the blue sheet.
Okay, it's not on the blue sheet. That's okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Come on, seatmate.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the committee, I have House Bill 927, which is on page 2 of the document under modified structure rule. This bill does two things. It requires that any unauthorized release of ethylene oxide be reported to the EPD within 24 hours. Second thing it does is it requires EPD to put on its website when there has been any unauthorized release of ethylene oxide. Two things it does.
Okay. I see no questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman Corbett. Don't let the Speaker Pro Tem by.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Second page under modified structure, 12 down from the top, House Bill 905, asked for yesterday. Basically, we're just adding the language or any political subdivision of a foreign country that allows DDS to the commissioner to enter into reciprocal agreements with a foreign country. Right now, Canada is the only one that we have a reciprocal agreement with. And then 19 down under modified structure on the second page, House Bill 936. This allows driver services to issue a digital driver's license, basically on your phone. Is basically what they're doing, roll out a pilot program to be able to do that.
Okay. See no questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Chairman Welch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple items on page 1, House Bill 440. I'm making this request, Mr. Chairman, and members of the Rules Committee on behalf of Mandy Ballinger, who's out presently. This is her Raise the Age bill. That's on page 1. And then Ms. Bonnie Rich, of course, has been out as well with the flu, and I'm going to sponsor this bill for her. It's on page 2. It's at the bottom, House Bill 953. For the Department of Administrative Services, an efficiency bill, government efficiency bill. And then, Mr. Chairman, I have a few bills that would be on page 4 if they had made it to the sheet.
What are you talking about, a few? Has anybody remembered the word two?
Two. You know I'm subbing in for folks. So
Yeah, okay. Well, you have a question. Hold on. Chairman Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Welch,
Yeah.
on the first one you mentioned, 440, changing the certain ages where the Superior Courts, I guess, could not hear a 17-year-old's case.
That's correct.
I saw some of the testimony in committee, and there was a great deal of discussion about how many millions of dollars this change could cost us, and were we ready to handle that. I don't know if the bill has been changed to account for any of that, or you can comment on it. I realize you're trying to care for somebody else.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and there is a very fierce dispute between the Chairman Ballinger and the department on the numbers, and we don't believe that the numbers are as high as they are representing. However, there would be an additional cost. I've seen ranges from as much as $20 million to as much as over that number, 40 to 60. I think it's actually probably lower than 20, but we're not getting clear information on that point. Now, I say that only as I'm speaking from Chairman Ballinger's perspective.
The second part of that is that two things about how this affects our ability to try people in Superior Court for felonies. It does not affect, if I understand, the 7 deadly sins, murder, rape.
That's
but
correct.
Tell me what things we would no longer be able to try a 17-year-old for in Superior Court, but instead they go to juvenile court.
These would be all your non-7 deadly sins offenses, or your a burglary. I think, well, actually, I don't have the list before me, but I'd have to get it for you. But these would be your lesser offenses. Your 7 deadly sins are going to be your murder, your rape, your very violent crimes. Those would still be prosecuted in Superior Court. And I know that Chairman Administration is more knowledgeable on this than I am, so he may be able to answer the question presently.
But basically, my last question would be that right now our prosecutors have the discretion whether or not to bring those felonies to Superior Court because of an assessment of the severity of the situation, but we're taking that discretion away from our prosecutors, right?
That would be correct, yes.
Thank you.
Chairman Administration.
Just to respond to Chairman Fleming's question, the sponsor or Mr. Welch can correct me if this is not consistent with his understanding, but all this would do would just provide adult jurisdiction for 18-year-old cases, 17-year-olds where they're currently being tried in state court for misdemeanors or Superior Court for felony offenses. They would be tried in juvenile court, and jurisdiction will be in juvenile court. Prosecutor could still move to transfer a case if the facts deserve, and a juvenile court could decide to do so. Original jurisdiction for what we commonly call the SB 440 offenses, the 7 deadly offenses, that would still apply to Superior Court. That is unchanged by this. Is that correct?
That is my understanding, but I think there's an important clarification I need to get between the two of you about whether we preserve prosecutorial discretion or not, but I understand that the default will be to shift all of these non-7 deadly sins crimes to juvenile court as the default jurisdiction. And then let me check Chairman Fleming's question about if prosecutorial discretion is still there to move them up to Superior Court if necessary. So let me check that.
And my understanding is it is. You just have to seek authorization from the juvenile court to transfer it. But yes, sir, I look forward to following up with you about that.
And I believe the chairman is correct, but I personally can't say that one way or the other, so I would have to check. Thank you for the questions and the response. Mr. Chairman, sorry.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You know, I do have that list on the back.
Oh, okay. That's good. Well, you know, I have to be real nice to him. He was my sweet mate for a while, and we have the same birthday, so we got all these kind of good things going. But keep holding that list. Chairman Belton.
Thank you, Chairman. I have 2 bills. The second page, the very first one, House Bill 736. It says loan forgiveness. It's actually a teacher vacancy tax credit. We changed the bill 11 different times. It's a pilot program to laser focus and teacher incentives to go to these either turnaround eligible schools or these most distantly rural schools. for these teachers. It's a very specific $3,000 tax credit for 5 years. Also, the very second to the last, House Bill 956, again, speech pathologist and audiologist. It's this last bill the Pentagon has asked us to pass in order to help their military spouses.
No questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Are you going to ask for another daylight saving time bill?
If you allow me
Yeah, come on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's House Bill 630. It's on the front page, fourth from the bottom. All this bill does, very simply, is would take our state to daylight saving time year-round, pending congressional approval.
So at that point in time, the feds do something, then, and they do this, we'll automatically be on permanent daylight saving.
Yes, sir, and there's a lot of momentum in that direction as we define momentum with the federal government.
Okay. All right. Next. Where you been? I haven't seen you in a while.
I've been hiding, Mr. Chairman. How are
Okay,
you
well, go
today?
ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. House Bill 998, page 3, fifth from the top. This is the department bill for DNR. Few simple things. It codifies the rules and regs from the board over this past year. It updates our HUI and BUI implied consent laws to be in cohesion with our DUI implied consent that we did last year. It makes the shoal bass the official state riverine fish, and it gives our commissioner the authority to change some bag limits in our DMAP program if need be. And that's pretty much it, and I would like to tag along with Chairman McCall, and I would ask for 1057 to be on the blue sheet later on today.
Okay.
Any questions?
I see no questions. Hold on, Mr. Reeves. I see a bunch of ugly old men up there who are in front of a sweet, wonderful chairman. Come on up. She even takes precedence over the governor's floor leader. By far does she take precedence. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have one bill this morning. It's on the third page. It's House Bill 1090, and it's going to encourage employers to provide a space for women to breastfeed so that children will get superior nutrition.
Okay, very good. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm here to ask for 912, which is in the middle of page 2. And Chairman Smith, this is my favorite bill this session. This is a foster care bill that will create a status that foster parents can have a foster child placed for up to 72 hours with a caregiver, which is a person that could be a babysitter, as opposed to having to go through the tedious and cumbersome process of getting an approved respite caregiver who is oftentimes a total stranger to a foster child.
Okay, very good. Thank you, sir. I see no questions. Chairman Watson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, I'm on page 3, middle of the page, HB 1039. This is dealing with contracts that automatically renew for more than 12 months. And it's just saying if your contract renews for more than 12 months, you need to allow the consumer to agree to that and sign off on that.
Okay. I see no questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Come on, cousin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Page 2, almost at the bottom, HB 929. This deals with the surface impoundment areas for the coal combustion residuals, and it does 4 things. It has better inspection, and it lasts for 30 years after the sites are closed. It monitors the groundwater. The information is put on the website, and when it's put on there so people that are not scientists can actually read what's on the website and understand that. And then it's every year they're inspected while they're closing, and then every 5 years after they close. Sure would appreciate your consideration on that.
Chairman Smith.
Thank you. I just want to commend the author of the bill and the actual Natural Resource and Environment Committee in the House. Worked on this for several years and have come up with a great compromise. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Scoggins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 7 down from the top on the second page is House Bill 865. This is a code revision bill for the probate judges, probate court. This is code section has not been revised since 1998, and I'd appreciate your consideration.
See no questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. LaRiccia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was not on the blue sheet yesterday, but happy belated birthday. I hope you've had an opportunity to enjoy that homemade cake that I hand-delivered to your office to you yesterday. And
well, you can go on. You can go on to the back of the line now.
I'm here to ask for House Bill.
I tell you what, I didn't know I was so popular. I just received all kind of cakes yesterday, and it invariably it was somebody was going to be against the wall. Invariably. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I am here to ask for House Bill 1017. It's on page 3, 8th from the top. Comes from the Georgia Indemnification Commission. The governor is the chairman of that commission, and what this does is revises who qualifies for the indemnification payments of someone killed in the line of duty, any of our first responders, our prison guards, or our highway workers.
Sorry about that. Yes, sir. I see no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Meeks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Bring to you today for consideration House Bill 1093, third page, fifth from the bottom. As we have done with other commodities produced in this state, this is a commodity commission for wine and grapes to allow them to do a self-assessment for promotion of their products made from Georgia produce.
Okay. See no questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also have one more, if I might.
Okay, go ahead.
On page 3, top of the page, House Bill 959. It's the LC 450451S. It's a piece of legislation dealing with a tipping fee for CCRs or coal ash into municipal landfills. We raised that to $2.50 per ton, as with municipal waste, as well as reducing the percentage that the municipalities have to use the tipping fees for a list of prescriptive uses under current law.
Okay, very good. Thank you, sir. Oh, got a question. Hold on. Chairman Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, how are we changing the use of those funds?
On page 2, section 2A, the current law reads at least 50% of those surcharges should be used for a list of prescriptive activities down below it from education. So we're just reducing that to 10%.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Gambill.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm here today to request H.R. 1163. It's on page 1, approximately 8 down from the top, and it is our annual road naming bill that has encompassed all of the requested road namings for this year.
Okay, see no question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Wiedower.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Have two for you this morning. First is on page 2, 6 up from the bottom, House Bill 928. This is Secretary of State bill, consumer protection, situation of solicitations at the top of which for renewing their corporate renewals, that they would have to include the words, "This is not a bill or official government document. This is a solicitation."
See no question. Go ahead. Next bill.
Right. Next was on page 3, 7 down from the top, House Bill 1015. This is a carbon credit bill. Very excited about this bill for the state of Georgia. It expands the carbon registry to construction materials and establishes a framework for that sale of those credits.
Chairman Smith.
Thank you, and I want to congratulate Representative Wiedower for this bill, and to note to the committee that Georgia is the #1 forestry state in the nation, and we've not had a program such as this in the United States. Is it not true? And that this legislation will enable us to enter into an international market. So it's a #1 job opportunity for Georgia people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. bring to you HB 93 that's on the front page, second one down on modified structured rule. All this does is require Georgia Power, when they're going to dewater a coal ash pond, that they give us notification. The coal ash ponds, when they dewater now, goes right into Lake Sinclair. And this would just get them to give us notice of this.
Got a question, number 30, okay. Mr. Williams.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, quick question. What are you going to do with it when they tell you?
It just, all it does is gives us notification. Lake Sinclair is used for a lot of recreational reasons and purposes, fishing and things, and we just want to have notification when they're going to be dewatering into the lake from those coal ash ponds. Very simple.
Quickly, are you going to post it or something? I just want to know
so
what you're going to do when you find out.
They're going to notify local government, and then we will notify, and we will post it on news media and websites. Yes, sir.
Members. Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Williams, what about emergency situations when dewatering, it could be over a weekend or a long weekend or something like that? How do you handle emergency situations?
What they would do is just still notify the local government and let us know, let Baldwin County and Putnam County know that they are dewatering, and then it can just go out on the Facebook and the websites.
So it's electronic notification?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. Very simple.
Chairman Smith.
Thank you. As a point of clarification, the EPD issues the permits for such discharges, and they have a right to withdraw that permit if there is a need to do that. So down the line, there's further enforcement, but there was a large outcry throughout our state to have some advance notice, but there is a regulatory authority over all of this. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Cheokas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I have one bill, HB 901, second page about the middle. It's simply cleanup legislation asked by the agency, which is the Georgia Environmental Finance Authority, to allow NGOs, for the authority to loan to NGOs money for land conservation. This is federal funds. It won't cost the state anything.
Okay, no questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Pirkle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the first page, a third of the way down, H.R. 1300. H.R. 1300 was not included with the annual easement and conveyance bill because it first must be transferred from a heritage to a non-heritage preserve trust. This is road widening. There's two locations, one in Murray County. They need to replace a bridge, and the second is in Glenn County. It involves a road widening and a roundabout that's on a pretty tight curve. So it's here because it must go from first heritage to non-heritage and then conveyed from DNR to DOT.
Okay, no questions. Thank you. Mr. Gaines.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two bills this morning on the third page towards the bottom. House Bill 1070 just ensures in water damage claims that each party can request in writing a copy of the certificate of insurance or the contact information of the assigned adjuster from the other party.
Okay, no questions. Next one.
And then House Bill 1094, coupled down from 1070, this ensures 3 weeks of paid parental leave for all 250,000 state employees across Georgia.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Gordon. Yes, sir. Go ahead. This is your first time here this year, isn't it?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Is this your first time here up here this year?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I bring three bills, H.R. 1038, H.R. 1039, and H.R. 1041. These are compensation resolutions for three Army veterans, three soldiers who unfortunately served 25 years for wrongful incarceration.
Okay. Don't see any questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dunahoo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Rules Committee. I bring before you HB 1040, LC 480181. Does one thing. It allows pay-only probation. The opportunity, the maximum fee now is 3 months of collection, and it raises that number to 6. The average collection rate is 5.5 months, and they pretty much are doing 2.5 months for free.
Okay, no questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Carpenter.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee. I come before you for House Bill 1098. It's a department bill. Simply allows the GDOT to match up their statewide plan with their federal plan. It's the long-term plan, and it basically allows them to do one plan instead of having to do 2 separate plans. It's a efficiency in government bill. Thanks for having me.
Okay, no questions, thank you. Mr. Sainz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have House Bill 728 as the last one on the first page. It does 4 major items. It modifies, it gives a tool back to law enforcement they lost in Park v. State last year with felony level sexual offender recidivists, which are the highest rate of being level 3 sexually violent predators. It allows for lifetime probation with also a clause in it to allow for a review, Department of Community Services review 10 years after that probation to make sure it's applicable. There's a trick-or-treating provision for those probationary items to ensure that law enforcement has the discretion to utilize that tool. It also modifies the Risk Review Board. There's some housekeeping items, but it also modifies the name from the Sex Offense Registry Review Board to the Risk Review Board, which applies to what they do. And it creates this state rape kit tracking system.
Okay, go to 34. Leader Travel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Does this bill create a life sentence, albeit life probation, upon the second offense? Is that what it does?
It creates a lifetime probation for those who are most data-drivenly seen as the most likely to reoffend in the state, allowing for that tool to be used.
Chairman Sessler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Isn't it true the committee in addressing this eliminated some offenses that could lead to this life probation for second offense, because the committee's intention was to make sure only the most serious offenses could qualify for this? Isn't that true?
Yes, sir. It's twice adjudicated felony level sex offenses with, I think, 2 offenses taken out because of the ability for it to be a leveling.
Okay. No other questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Our caucus leader. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a bill, HB 991, the second from the top on page 3. Simply forms a 9-member oversight review committee to look at contracts with PBMs, CMOs, and other contractors, subcontractors with the Department of Community Health.
Okay, now, I hope all these lights that have come on are not questions for Mr. Hatchett, or we're going to be here a while. Does anyone have a question for him? Raise your hand. Seeing none, thank you. Okay, where do we start? Yeah. Yes, we'll do Speaker Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to I have a substitute for House Bill 1094 that makes it clear that paid parental leave applies to all state employees. Had a few technical changes.
Okay, substitute for House Bill 1094, LC number 33836-0S. Everybody found it? Okay, so we've got a motion for a substitute for 1094, LC number 33836-0S. We got a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed? Thank you. All right. Okay, we'll start to our right. Chairman Tankersley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill is House Bill 1014. It's on page 3, the 6th bill down. This is a Department of Community Affairs bill, and it's relevant only to downtown development authorities. In Georgia, we do have 231 of downtown development authorities that have been established by municipal governments. About 39 of those are listed as inactive. And they are allowed to go inactive as it stands now, but they cannot be dissolved. And these authorities are the only authorities that do require perpetual existence. This bill would just simply allow municipal governments to dissolve those DDAs that are no longer active, but they cannot hold any assets and they cannot have any outstanding debt or other obligations. So simply, we will strike the sentence, each authority shall have perpetual existence, and it would, by doing this, it will allow those dormant, inactive authorities to be legally dissolved. So the Department of Community Affairs, they've had a number of requests for this legislation, and I would ask for this committee's favorable consideration.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Chairman Benton.
Here. First page, House Bill 67, retirement bill relating to the Georgia legislative retirement system. And a bill that didn't make it to the blue sheet is House Bill 86 that has to do with evaluations for tenured teachers.
Okay. Chairman Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to ask for House Bill 833 on the second page, and I'd also like to put my name beside Representative Gordon's 3 resolutions, compensation for those soldiers wrongly convicted, on the first page.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Setzler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to ask for HB 958. This bill allows nonprofits to provide places to live to expecting mothers and mothers of newborns by deregulating some of the regulations that apply for facilities that apply to minors. Currently, if you're 18 to 21, it's regulated as if you're a minor, and this addresses those issues. Also, we had an amendment committee that addressed concerns of local governments.
Okay.
And one other, Mr. Chairman, if I could, HB 895. This bill passed in 2017, 164 to 0. It creates 2 tiers of fines and points for failure to recognize a traffic control device.
Okay. Chairman Harrell.
Thank you. On the last page under structured rule, I'd like to ask for House Bill 949. This is the tax reform bill where the General Assembly keeps our promise. It lowers the personal income tax rate down to 5.375%, keeps the corporate rate at the existing 5.75%, implements a flat tax where no one is harmed by the flattening of the brackets, but everyone should benefit by the reduction of the rate, includes the governor's adoption tax credit and the annual IRC update where the state responds to provisions in the federal tax code, and then finally eliminates an existing low-income tax credit rarely used and a loophole with regard to the so-called double deduction. That's House Bill 949.
I think you have a question, Leader Trammell.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's really 2 questions. I know when we were taking this bill up in committee yesterday, they were in the process of working on the fiscal note. So the first question is, when will the fiscal note be ready? And the second question is, assuming it's not ready, can you tell us what the net revenue cost of this bill is?
The fiscal note was issued. Hopefully it is online at the OPB website by now, and Representative Carson is telling us that it's also attached in the binder. The fiscal impact of this measure in fiscal year 21 in total is $98 million, absent the IRC update, which was already included in the budget planning, $98 million. I'll remind the body that the bill passed our first week. Marketplace facilitator is not in the revenue projections, and that bill is projected to raise $80 million. So just looking at the 2, we're looking at a net reduction of $18 million in fiscal year 21.
Leader Chalmers, okay. Any other questions, please raise your hand. All right, seeing none, thank you. Chairman Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On page 2, about 9 down, House Bill 881, believe it or not, we still have mothers abandoning their babies on the side of the road or in the forest, which leaving them to die, unfortunately, before they're found. This sets in motion the possible development of what are called hope boxes, sort of like mini incubators that could be put in places that have 24-hour surveillance, and mothers could leave their babies there without anyone knowing who left the baby, and that seems to be the problem. They want to be totally anonymous. I also have House Bill on the 3rd page, second from the bottom, House Bill 1114. This would expand coverage for mothers on our Medicaid program that deliver from 2 months to 4 months. Hopefully this will cut down on our maternal mortality rates. Most of the complications are found by the end of 6 months, and hopefully we can start preventing them. And it also includes some provision for breastfeeding care, and that has a significant impact on lowering the number of infants that we have born that are low birth weight, which end up in our ICU units that cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars. And of course, I would like to ask again for 996, which is the Cosmetic Laser Service Act. It just brings it up to date with the new machines and high tech that's available. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you. Chairman Tanner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have 3 bills to mention, and I have a substitute to offer. I'd like to put my name beside 1163, the annual road naming bill. Also beside House Bill 1098, the annual department bill. One that's not on the sheet I would also like to mention is 1216, which is a road naming bill for the port that, because of some specific issues with that, we had to take up as a separate item, but that's 1216. And then at the appropriate time, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to bring a substitute to House Bill 959.
Now's the time.
All right, I have a substitute to House Bill 959. I've talked to the author about this. Last year, we worked most of the session to get an increase to the host tipping fee, an increase to that for the first time in a while from $1 to $2.50. In doing that, we negotiated out that for the increase, 50% of that increase would be used for specific things, because the intent of these dollars is to offset the cost of the landfill to the public. So that was carefully negotiated out. The bill you have before you today lowers that back down to only 10%. I've talked to the author after this passed committee, and we talked about making that 40%, which is a reduction. It's a broad top list that it can be used for already, and any of the dollars that don't have to be used for that can be used for other purposes. But it is again, just a way that we're using those dollars to help offset the impact of a landfill to the community. So I would ask for your consideration for substitute LC 450481S.
Okay. Excuse me. LC 450481S. There's a substitute for House Bill 959. Are you ready to move on that?
Yes, move.
Okay, we got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Thank you. Chairman Hawkins.
First page. You know, over the years, we've been addressing broadband and telecommunication throughout this state and run into some bumps. We've had some very good legislation, but we still have a problem, and that problem is that some of the cities have decided to use DOT rates after listening to a consultant. And some of these cities, the rates have gotten up as much as 58% of cost. It's a 58% tax over revenues. One city, it's actually 111%. So for us to get broadband out into, and these are pass-through costs. In other words, no end users in the cities, just putting the cable pass through the city to get to the rural areas. So this bill calls for a 3% service charge on end users. Pass-through would be 5 cents a foot, about $280-something dollars a mile, and a $100 permitting fee. It gets it down to a reasonable amount that the city still makes some money off something they're really not utilizing, and it helps the citizens of Georgia get some broadband on the outskirts of these cities.
Okay.
That's the bill.
All right, thank you, sir. Any questions? Please raise your hand. Mr. Whip. Who? Oh, Fleming. Chairman Fleming? Okay. Got a question. Thank you.
I'm not surprised.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, you said that currently those local governments can use the GDOT rate, but we're going to lessen that rate. Is that what I understood you to say?
I didn't say they were going to lessen it, but there is some talk about doing that, going to another rating system. Yes.
Maybe I misunderstood you. What does the bill do then?
What the bill does, oh, you talking about this bill? Yes, it does lessen that DOT rate. In fact, now let me back up. It does not change the DOT rate. It's telling the cities to use this 5 cents per foot rather than the DOT rate. So we're not touching the DOT rate.
So the cities can currently use the GDOT rate, but we're going to make them use a lesser rate, but keep letting GDOT use their rate.
Correct. The cities will go back to the rates they had before. These high rates are not rates that they established, but rather went to in recent years. The rest of the cities are around $200-something a year. My city is.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Mr. Whip.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to ask for House Bill 1049 on behalf of Representative Montahan. It would create some reporting requirements for our local governments to notify the Director of Emergency Management and Homeland Security or their designee of any cyber attack, incident, data breach, or identified use of malware on a utility, computer, or network. It also gives our local governments the ability to talk about these attacks and their plans of response in executive session so that we're not broadcasting our plans to deter to those who are wanting to harm.
Chairman Lumsden.
Bill 1050, this is a department bill that comes as a priority for the Georgia Insurance Commissioner's Office. It's on page 3, about halfway down. This is NAIC model legislation. This makes 2 major changes to the Georgia Life and Health Guarantee Fund. It adds HMOs to the fund to broaden the assessment base, and it splits future assessments at 50-50 between long-term care insolvencies equally between life members and health members of the Guarantee Fund.
Any questions for anyone? Okay, thank you. Well, yeah, we'll go with Mr. Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to ask for HB 926, which is the hazardous waste and solid waste bill. Talked about it yesterday. It's on the sheet for the first time today. Also, would like to ask for one that's not on the sheet. It's the HB 925. It's Georgia Department of Economic Development cleanup bill. It simply codifies the NAIC codes and updates them that they use, puts them in compliance with federal law and also with the Department of Revenue. And I'd like to put my name by HB 998, which is Chairman Rhodes' DNR bill.
Okay, thank you, sir. Chairman Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to ask for House Bill 857. My good friend, Representative Chairman McCall, came forward on this. I asked yesterday. This is a bill that has has mostly impact on 2 counties, Franklin and Madison County, that he and I represent. Because of the plants that have started burning creosote treated railroad ties, this basically prohibits the use of those for biomass boilers that are creating commercial electricity generation. Left open for one of the plants that might want to burn it that has a co-located forest products processing plant. Under EPD consultation, that these are the only 2 plants that are burning this. When these plants were built a few years ago, they were never told that they'd be burning this type of stuff. And this is really to help them folks get back to a normal life and to move back into their homes for the folks that are affected that live around these plants. There's no questions. I have one other bill.
Can it be a little shorter than the last one?
I'll be glad to.
Okay.
House Bill 674 basically allows the Department of Revenue to work with local governments to create a uniform licensing system for alcohol licenses.
That last one was a really good presentation. Y'all take note. Really good presentation. Chairman Blackman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'd like to ask for House Bill 848, which is 5 down on page 2. It is a department bill for the Department of Administrative Services and deals with the disposal of surplus property. Also, if there aren't any questions, on page 4, the first one at the top, House Bill 153, is regulatory fee cleanup, and all the stakeholders have signed off on it. Thank you.
Okay. Chairman Dempsey.
Thank you. 2, please. The first page, bottom of modified open rule, H.R. 1280. This is in regards to a joint study committee. It's a department request from the Department of Public Health to look at the effects in a very careful and not rushed way of lead poisoning. In prenatal, it can cause miscarriage, premature birth, and then irreversible brain damage, damage to the kidneys or central nervous system. The second is on page 3, close to the top, HB 993, and this is also a department request from the Department of Family and Children Services to begin to improve the process of information added in a timely way. It comes with the agreement from Department of Public Health as well for our foster kids.
Okay, no questions. Thank you, ma'am. Cheokas, Chairman Illustration, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd ask for two House bills that are not on the blue sheets. Just notice 941 and 1092. Thank you.
You know, he may get those. Those were quick. Chairman Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the bottom of page 3, House Resolution 1008, which is an urgent resolution, State Board of Pardons and Parole, and I'd like to put my name by House Resolution 1300 and also House Bill 736.
Okay, thanks, sir. Representative Hughley.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask for House Bill 66, the very top of the first page. This allows for specialty license plates for motorcycles. And it's only for those entities that already are authorized to have specialty license plates. And then a little bit further down, H.R. 18 is a compensation resolution for the wrongful conviction of Mr. Jakeef Robinson.
Okay. Chairman Knight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to ask for HB 853, second down on the first page. That is the special license plate for the tax commissioners, allowing them to have it during their time in office. And then I'd also like to put my name behind 991, Chairman Hatchett's bill, the oversight bill, and then also 949, the tax bill.
Okay. Chairman Carson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to ask for House Bill 949. It's already been covered. This is the IRC update and income tax rate reduction bill. Also on page 2, I'd like to ask for House Bill 761. All this does is it raises the percentage at which an EMC can have an investment in a gas affiliate. And in support of my friend from Savannah, Chairman Stevens, I'd like to put my name by HB 833.
Thanks, sir. Okay. Chairman Martin.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask for House Bill 867. This is so governments can communicate before an annexation of a public airport, specifically limited to Charlie Brown. All the people agree.
Mr. Bodie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to put my name beside H.R. 18, Representative Carolyn Hughley's compensation bill. I would like to also put my name beside H.R. 1038, H.R. 1039, and H.R. 1041, those are Representative Craig Gordon's compensation bills.
Okay, thank you, sir. Chairman Taylor, is your button pushed?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to ask for House Bill 906. This is a Department of Natural Resource bill. It has to do with the heritage preservation. And we have some properties the state owns that are irreparable and unusable, and this will allow the public to work on those properties. Thank you. I also would like to put my name by 736.
Okay. Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to put my name beside HB 956, the Pentagon's requested bill. And I'd like to also put my name beside, even though it's a little late, HR 1008, Representative Green's bill.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Chairman Jaspers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to ask for Chairman Ballinger, House Bill 787, it's second from the top, and on the second page. It's a bill that's given the Attorney General the authority to enter into agreements with other states concerning recognizing Georgia weapons license. This bill is very clear, stating twice that other states' laws exceed or are substantially equal to ours. I'd also like to ask for me, House Bill 1055, it's on the third page, about halfway down, education bill would allow homeschool students who take one virtual class at their resident school to participate in extracurricular activities.
Okay. Chairman Lumsden.
My name by House Bill 833, also by House Bill 1040.
Okay. Chairman Benton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I let it slip by. I'd like to put my name beside House Bill 1092.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Chairman Parrish.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to also put my name by House Bill 906 with Representative Taylor there.
Okay. Chairman Williamson.
Chairman, I was wondering when it would be appropriate time to, for the chair to consider a motion.
Yes, sir.
Well, I was wondering if the chair would consider a motion to remit House Bill 474 back to committee, given there's some procedural confusion on this bill, and it's, since it touches on our very, very important workers' compensation system in Georgia, there appears to be a lot of confusion about it and a lot of concern with this, and I was wondering if the chair would entertain a motion to move it back to committee to get it cleaned up.
We got a motion and a second. We got an objection. Okay, well, I guess one simple process here. All in favor of moving that bill back to which committee?
To Industry and Labor Committee.
Industry and Labor. Raise your right hand. Count. Oh, we got two here.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I don't understand.
Okay, we're fixing to correct that. You've had, okay, Whip, what's your objection?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just say this bill has been considered multiple times in committee and was passed out with that recommendation. This would provide legislative oversight to our workers' comp system, and all this bill would do is codify a rule that has already been proposed by Frank McKay, who oversees the advisory board. They have proposed this rule, and all this would do is codify it and provide the legislature with oversight to ensure that our workers' comp system remains balanced and working for the citizens of Georgia, both the employers and the employees of Georgia.
Representative Williamson.
To the whip, majority whip, is it not true that the industry, the entire employers of Georgia are right now objecting to this version, and there was some confusion as to which LC number was passed out of committee. There's no LC number referenced when the motion was made. Is that not true?
I cannot speak to that because I was in the committee. No one has brought that concern to me, and I would trust Chairman Werkheiser as chair of that committee to conduct meetings in a fair and proper way.
Okay, well, we've got the discussion over with. Anyone else have a comment they'd like to make? We'll start this voting all over again. Okay, all in favor of sending House Bill 474 back to committee, raise your hand. All opposed? It's going back to committee. Thank you. All right, we can set Chairman Knight.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. One last request. It was the third bill from the top was HB 999, simply just a resolution honoring the Purebred Dog Day in Georgia and all our breeders and what they do to give us great pets across the state of Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Well, those dogs didn't sound purebred, I can tell you that. Okay, we're going to set a supplemental calendar for today. And we're going to add 2 or 3 little bills to it. We have if I can find a substitute. We're going to add House Bill 1094 substitute that we just voted on, LC 338360S. Got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. It's on. House Bill 1114. I hear moved. I have a second. Okay, all in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. So, okay, House Bill 949. Got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. I heard one no. Okay. Well, let's do it. We hear 2 no's. Okay. It's on. Chairman Hatchett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to move that according to Rule 33.3 that we limit debate to 1 hour on the bills on the supplemental calendar for today at the discretion of the Speaker.
Okay, got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Okay. Now we will set the first calendar for crossover. You notice I said first. That was those 3 bills were the supplemental for today. These bills that we'll talk about now will be for crossover on Thursday. House Bill 93 under modified structure. Got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. Okay, House Bill 720. Got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. Okay. All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, comparable. It carried. Okay, House Bill 761. I got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. So, House Bill 833. Got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. It's on. House Bill 857. Got a move and second. Did you second it? Okay. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. It's on. House Bill 881. Got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. House Bill 901, 888 is on. House Bill 901. Got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. That was 901. 906. Got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. It's on. House Bill 929. Got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. 929 is on. House Bill 991. Got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. It's on. House Bill 993. Got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. It's on. House Bill 1015. Got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. It's on. House Bill 1017. I hear a move and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. It's on. House Bill 1026. Got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. House Bill 1039. Got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. House Bill 1070. 1070. Got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. House Bill 1093. Got a move and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. Okay. That's the calendar for the first calendar for Thursday. Y'all have a good day. No.